Now, our next speaker is Sung-Joon, former security advisor of the President of Korea. Now, how do you see the challenges to democracy and to cooperation in East Asia?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor. Well, as you said, my name is Sung-Joon, formerly worked as a national security official. It is my great pleasure and honor to become a part of the prominent panelists for the final debate. I would like to make 3 points for this final debate. My first point is whether the surprising election of Donald Trump as the next President of the United States constitutes a challenge to democratic governance in the United States. Simply speaking, I never had doubt that Mrs. Clinton would win, despite all the flaws and weaknesses the US media has continuously reported about her during the campaign. I heard many speakers at this conference referring to Trump's victory as shock, stunning, and even earthquake as well. My personal judgment for Clinton's victory was mainly based upon most credible US medias, New York Times, CNN, Washington Post, and etc. As the election day approached, these medias even raised the chance of Clinton's winning as much as 90+ percent. Out of this confusion, 2 questions came to my mind. First, what went wrong with the US media mostly predicting Clinton victory even in the last moment? We all know that US media employs most advanced state-of-art technology, so-called big data, in the analysis of public opinion polls and election results. To me, this was even more surprising than actual Trump victory. Here, let me introduce one Korean university professor who perfectly predicted the outcome of the US elections very differently from those of the US media. He could have jeopardized his job of teaching if he had proved wrong. Professor Woo of Sejong University in Seoul, teaching big data economics, became a celebrity overnight. Soon after, his prediction of Trump victory was translated into a reality. He predicted that Donald Trump was going to win with 275 to 285 electoral votes to Hillary's 253 to 263. Based on his calculations, Hillary never reached the 270+ electoral college votes to begin with. Professor Wu used a Google trend to analyze the entire race since the primaries all the way through the 3 presidential debates. And despite poor performance at the debates, despite disparaging words about women, and despite his racist overtones, he found that people Googled Trump far more than Clinton. Secondly, what lies behind all these political upsets, such as unprecedented terrorist attacks in Europe, Brexit, Trump victory, and President Park-geunhye's turmoil in my country? Why did the American people vote for a man with no prior public service experience and expect that he could realize a great America during his 4 to 8-year term of presidency? Can we say that election of Trump and Brexit constitute challenges to the democratic governance in the US and UK. How should we define these phenomena as normal trend or abnormal as described by Prime Minister Kevin Rudd in his dinner remarks? I know that economists invented a new terminology to describe the contracted Chinese economy in recent years as new normal. I think new normal seems to be more appropriate than abnormal in perceiving a series of upset happenings in the global affairs. Abnormal implies that we can or may return to normal if things are put on the track again. But I think the turn of the global affairs will ride not always on the track, but off the track a lot more than we may think. In conclusion, we may have to live with new normals in the years ahead. My second point is about North Korea under Trump presidency. As a national security official of my country in the past, I worked a lot on North Korean nuclear and missile issues in Washington, D.C. and back in Korea. If I'm asked to pinpoint one person who was most shocked by the election of Donald Trump as the next president of the US, he is surely no person other than North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. I'm sure that Kim Jong-un and his inner circle officials must have followed the Hillary Trump election campaign very closely and seriously as well. And he was apparently briefed for a Clinton victory, as was my President Park Geun-hye. Before the election, South Korean public opinion polls showed that over 90% Korean people supported Clinton and only 9% favored Trump, which is the lowest in Asia. I myself also thought that the game was over and believed in Clinton victory until CNN showed electoral map on the night of vote counting when I was in Budapest, Hungary. During the campaign, I felt uneasy and bewildered about Trump's unthoughtful statements on the Korean Peninsula issues. On South Korea, he said, it should bear all costs of the deployment of US forces. In fact, South Korea now pays about $1 billion for half of the expense. And South Korea, I quote, would be better off if it is going to start protecting itself, unquote, implying that South Korea and even Japan could develop and possess nuclear weapons. And North Korea, he said, if elected, he would invite Kim Jong-un to Washington, D.C. and discuss about the nuclear issue, eating hamburger with him. I just dismissed his remarks as jokes because he was the last person to be elected president of the US. However, now that Trump was elected as the next president, Kim Jong-un must be terribly busy in Pyongyang to develop a strategy dealing with him, with the new administration. North Korean media very unusually kept silence, did not make any comment on the Trump election. In my view, North Korea may try to put Trump administration to a test by firing a long-range ballistic missile targeting the US, or by conducting another nuclear bomb test in order to knock the door of Trump's White House. In that case, President Trump should take a difficult decision on which direction the US should turn, between a hardline path to put more pressure and set a red line for a potential military action, and a negotiation path for another agreement following the two previous ones in 1994, namely a Geneva Framework Accord, and 2006 September agreement, respectively. To sum up, North Korea will test the mettle of the Trump administration in early months to see how far they can go. The showdown between Trump and Kim Jong-un could be a big show, which could result in either Trump's first spectacular foreign policy victory or in catastrophic consequences on the Korean Peninsula. My last point.
Yeah, you have to conclude. Huh?
Yes, just 30 seconds. On a personal note, I was one of the early supporters of WPC process, which, as initially envisioned, has evolved into a mechanism for discussing about the most urgent issues of global governance and thereby seeking the solutions of problems facing the globe. As for me, this conference is like 3-day university curriculum to study and learn new knowledges from various numerous global leaders, experts, and scholars in global affairs. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.